Hello. Alright, my target audience is a freshman sophomore class taking Intro to Computer Science. Alright, let's get my PowerPoint all set up here. Alright, so at some point everyone has to have learned their ABCs, and we have to remember it for the rest of our lives. But computers need to remember them too, but they don't remember it like we do. Computers have to store their computers have to remember them too. Every time we use a computer to write a story, the computer needs to remember the letters in the story by saving them to the computer's memory as a file. Alright. Which brings us to what I'm working on, or what I've done. How much memory does it take for our computers to remember a series of letters? Well, let's talk a little bit about my main points. So my first point, what I'm going to talk to you guys about is basically a little bit about my method, what my findings were through using that method, and then a little bit about my conclusions that I can draw from those findings. Alright, so I don't know if you guys know, or you probably do if you've guessed, we live in this age where there's a lot of space to store things. But I feel like we've forgotten how hard it used to be, and just how little we had to work with. Which brings us to the importance of my topic. Just how much data is stored when we type in a story into our computer. Every time we write up a story, we have to write letters in and characters. But how many letters or how many characters equals how much memory is being stored? And how much could we store if we only had a couple megabytes? That's what my experiment is going to be about. Okay, so let's talk about the methods for my experiment. My basic setup for this is my laptop and Notepad, or TextEdit. These text document programs that you can type up words in. All you need is those things and an online database of some kind. Somewhere you can measure the amount of data being stored. For me, I used Dropbox, which is an online database, kind of like Excel or these other online programs that save information via cloud. Alright, let's talk a little bit about my individual steps for it. So you open up a text document via Notepad and you insert your desired variables or letters, or you can change specific variables. Then you save it, and then via the menu bar to your desktop, and then you rename it. You rename it whatever number experiment it is, and you click on it 2 times to do that. After doing that, go to your desktop, right-click on the file, and hit Properties. Right there, it'll display how much memory is being used by that file, how many bytes it takes up. Now you record the byte size and move the file from your desktop to the online database. The online database will tell you exactly how many bytes it's stored for this file. Then you cross-reference them to make sure they're the same. If they are, move the file back onto your desktop and record it via paper. Then repeats 1 through 8. And every time change a little bit about the variable so you can draw conclusions from it. Alright, so what were my findings? Well, I don't have a PowerPoint right this minute, but I have a spreadsheet of my individual experiments, and I have like 11 of them. In each one, I changed a little bit about what I saved in those documents, like whether it be like 26 characters, like the full alphabet, I also like did individual ones, like I saved only one letter and then a different letter, and then I would change the capitalization of one of them for some of them, and then I would combine them with spaces to make sure that spaces didn't affect what is being stored. Alright, so what are my conclusions I got from this? Well, a couple conclusions I could draw from my data is capitalization. Well, in experiments 5, 7, and 8, it's very clear that capitalization doesn't matter. I did the same experiments, but only changed the capitalization, and nothing happened. Basically, it stored the same 26 bytes for each one of those characters, no matter whether or not they were capitalized. Another thing that I can conclude is that in the ones that I did change the space, what the spaces were in the text document, like I typed in an A and then I put a space and then I typed in a B, those I actually got different results. Instead of getting 2 bytes for the 2 letters that I plugged in, I got 3 bytes, which leads me to conclude that the space that I put in must be taking up a bit of data. So that's what I conclude about that. The last thing I can conclude is that regular letters or numbers are stored as only 1 byte. They're like the smallest value you can store if you're using TextEdit. It's different if you use Microsoft Word. In fact, I did it once and it had like 12,768 bytes used for just saving like a few letters into a blank document. So it's way different. Future implications. A couple of future implications for this is we can go into like Microsoft Word and start playing around with just how much space is being wasted or used, and like how that would be not useful in a time period where you only have like a few megabytes of storage to your convenience to use on your giant room-sized computer. The couple weaknesses in my and strengths of my method is it takes really long to do it. Like, I could shorten the process a little bit and not use online data storage to cross-reference the bit size. Also, with my method, it's a little unclear because it's a kind of complicated method. I could use a flowchart to show just how many bytes are being used. I can make it a little more clear and put it in pictures, but I haven't done that yet. So that's just like some preliminary problems with my method and data. Future implications, like I just said, Microsoft Word, we start going into how effective that is if we were living in an age where we only had like a few megabytes of storage. Other than that, there's been no research done on this for years. This is like ancient history. Let's go a little bit over my main points again. So for my method, I just took a TextEdit document, plugged in a few letters, saved it, cross-referenced how many bytes were being stored, and then repeated for each one, and just changing like whatever I put in to draw conclusions from. And what were my findings? Well, it turns out that I got a whole list of data, and I can't show them to you right now, but I would go back over them if I were giving this presentation right at this moment. Alright, so conclusions. My conclusions were capitalization doesn't matter. Spaces do. They matter a lot. And the number of characters also is the amount of bytes used to store them. But only if you're using a TextEdit document like TextEdit or Notepad for Microsoft Word. Or I mean not Microsoft Word, I mean Windows laptop or a Mac. Okay, so are there any questions? And that's my speech.